Welcome, everybody. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford, and it is time for the Power Hour. And we've got kind of a historic show today. So I'm actually in the garage at Pittsburgh Power, and I've got Pete and Ethan live here with me in the coach, the mobile studio. So we're going to be talking a lot about what's going on here in the garage. And we've got Bruce with us as well. And we are also going to open up the phone lines right now. So like I always tell you, you better get in early. This hour is going to go fast. We're only doing an hour today. And it is going to go fast. And we're going to get to calls, so you better line them up. If you dial right now, I promise you'll get through. If you wait, you may not. So jump in and join us. Here's the number. 855-950-3835. Again, if you're listening live and you want to jump in and join us, anything maintenance related, anything about the truck itself, pick up the phone and join us. Got a lot of people here that can probably help you solve your problem. 855-950-3835. We'll get to the calls pretty quickly here, so line them up. All right, Bruce, you're first today. Welcome back. What's on your mind?
Oh, Kevin, I have lots of things. I'm a 28-year-old fella from Alberta, Canada. He's buying his second new truck. He's been very successful, 6 axles, hauls cattle. And every time when I talk to him, I said, well, you're doing everything you're right and you're driving right. I said, did your father teach you how to drive? He said, no, you and Kevin did on the radio show.
Really?
Yeah. So
I love that.
That was nice to hear. Another 64-year-old owner-operator called me, listens to the show, but he has 2 younger sons that run 379 Pete's with Cats, and they don't listen to the show, and he wants to put 264 gears in, and his kids are telling him that truck won't pull and it won't have enough power. Why are you doing such a stupid thing? And I said, I'm sorry to tell you, but your sons are ignorant. They need to listen to the show and read the magazine articles, and then they would understand. But people just don't seem to understand that. And here's what I tell people to do. If you're on a long grade and you're loaded, and you're running 336, 355, 370 gears, whatever, and you got a 13 or an 18 speed, or whatever transmission you have, look at your boost gauge, look at your exhaust gas temperature gauge, listen to the engine and the transmission. We want to hear you to hear the sound difference, and look at the tachometer. Now, drop it down 1 full gear into direct gear. Put the RPM back to where it was. If it was 1200, if it was 14 or 1600, put the RPM back to where it was. Give it about 30 seconds to balance out. Now, see how many pounds less boost it takes. See how many degrees the exhaust gas temperature has come down. Listen to how much quieter the engine and the transmission is when you're in direct gear, 1-to-1, not turning overdrive gears. And now play with the throttle up and down and feel the acceleration and the power that you don't have when you're in double over. Don't look at the speed, because naturally we know you're going to be about 6 to 7 miles per hour slower because you're down 1 full gear. But with the 264s or 247s, that's the feeling that you will have when you're up at your normal speed. That's my second thing.
Yeah,
one more, but go ahead.
Yeah, let me comment on that, because we talk about rear end gears, and it's always confused me why drivers will say, well, that gear won't pull, or that gear is too fast, or we're talking about gears, so they obviously understand the concept of gears. Why don't they seem to understand the concept that before we get to the differential, we could have anywhere from 10 to 18 gears that we can change that with, and after the differential, even the tire size acts like a gear. So you have three ways to kind of customize how much power you put to the ground, what RPM you're doing at what speed, and yet somehow everybody thinks that rear end number is the final answer. And it's just not. It's just one piece of that calculation.
That's right. That's right. Now, here's a question for if anyone that's really into gears. Can a 247 ring and pinion be put into a housing that has a 355, a 336, or a 370? I was told once that it doesn't, but I know a lot of the newer Walmart trucks have 247s in them, and you may have to buy the whole housings if you want to go to the 247. For those of you who want to cruise at 70 mile an hour indirect, the 247 is the gear, not the 264. 264 at 70 mile an hour is roughly 1,560 RPM, which still isn't too bad.
No, sorry, I was working with the call screener and technology there, but you're right. This gearing thing, and it's interesting that you started way back when, and you were, primarily performance, and you came to the same conclusion about gearing. I was primarily fuel mileage. I came to the same things you wanted and did, and then, we meet Joel, who's also been doing it for 30 years. And when it comes to gearing, Joel had all the same conclusions we both did. And yet it's so rare in the industry. All anybody talked about was rear end ratio, and they all had their favorite. Well, I like this because it pulls better. It doesn't. It's only one piece of that equation again. So, I think it helped a lot over the last 10 plus years that we just keep talking about this.
Mm-hmm. And then I just got off the phone and spent about a half hour with Con. He is an immigrant, came here at age 10. He's been working since he was 16. He's in Florida, and he hauls food. He has 4 trucks on, and he met us in 2012 at the CMC in Kansas City, and he really wants to see you do that again in Kansas City. And he said he learned so much. He said it was hard for him to go to sleep because he was learning so much at the CMC. But he buys a 5-gallon pail of the max mileage catalyst in his 3 other drivers, put it in 1 ounce to 25 gallon, and he's been doing this for 2.5 years and 0 emission problems, and they're DD15s in Freightliners. And his haul is from Ormond Beach, Florida, over to Birmingham, Alabama, and back. And he says, I talk to other people that own a few trucks, and they're spending $10,000 and $12,000 a year on emission problems. I explain to them what the max mileage catalyst does. He said, but they don't have a clue, and they have closed minds. And that's because they don't listen to the radio show or read the articles or get on our website. And you have to educate yourself. And I tell people, I said, if I wanted to buy an airplane and I want to learn how to fly, before I went looking for an airplane, I would be on the internet, and I'd be buying airplane magazines, and I would be reading, and I would teach myself how to fly that plane before I even went to look at it. And it's so easy to teach yourself today, but you've talked about that, so.
Yeah, it really is. We have access to everything and anything you want to learn today. All right, great stuff. Calls are
One last thing.
Go ahead, Bruce. Go ahead.
John Newby with the 379 Pete with the C16 that was at 4 miles to the gallon. He's at 5.35, and he did the 264 gears. He loves them, but he is at a standstill right now because he is in the convoy. And we talk every evening. He's in Hagerstown, and he said it's unbelievable the support they are getting from the general public and how many people. And who is the congressman from Texas?
Cruz, Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz was riding in the lead truck 2 days ago, and there's another fellow from Texas. I forget what his name was. He's coming and talking to the guys. But there's a lot of people with cars and pickup trucks and motor homes in this caravan too.
Yeah. You know, I was in it for a couple of days, and I got to see it. It was huge then, and it got bigger and bigger. I've been following it. You know, every time this has been attempted in the past, we're going to take trucks to Washington, we're going to get them to change. I've been a huge critic. Most of them were not well organized. They had no real clue what they wanted to change or who needed to change it. If they had a list of demands, it was all over the board. I was very critical of them. I said, this is a bad idea. It's not going to work, and you're just going to piss off the public. This time, when I saw how well the Canadian drivers organized theirs and what an amazing job they did and the support they got from people, then we started hearing about convoys in the U.S., and I said, I really hope they're able to do what was done in Canada. They had a clear message, one real demand. I don't know how they managed to keep all the behavior so good, but they have. Both groups have been amazing, in my opinion. This is one of the first events like this that I've actually promoted and supported, and I still support them. They've done an amazing job. It's unfortunate that they've been doing this for weeks and weeks now. These guys are going, look at fuel costs. They're putting fuel in their truck. They have no revenue. It's amazing that they're all still there doing this. That's dedication. It cost them a lot of money to get across the country. They're still doing it. It is just unfortunate that it's happening at the same time as one of the biggest world events since World War II. The news coverage is nothing but Ukraine. We know the mainstream media wanted to ignore this group anyway, and they would have tried to ignore them, but now they have a huge excuse for being able to ignore them, and that's just a shame. The people are supporting them. The media is ignoring them.
That's right. That's exactly
all right.
I see nothing on the news.
Nothing. And when you do, it's almost like they go out of their way to try to say it wasn't as big, it fizzled out. Kudos to everybody out there. I hope some of those people are listening. I think they're doing an amazing job all around. All right, we're going to move on. Phone lines are open. We've got some calls, but we also have some lines open. If you're listening on the live stream, 855-950-3835. All right, so we're going to move along. Ethan, you're up next. Welcome back. And Ethan, by the way, is right here in the studio, so this is a first. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, it's live and in person.
Live and in person, that's right. Sounds like it, too.
Yeah, a little different.
Sounds
definitely
good.
Different.
Yeah. We've got a lot to talk about, don't we?
We do have a few things there.
So what's been going on with the coach from your end?
So from our end, we definitely got to see what program was in it. Definitely even showed you there what changes we were going to make and how it's going to definitely make this perk up a little bit there. But before we did that, we just went with the shop side too.
And what do we tell people all the time? Before you start trying to improve fuel mileage with add-ons or tunes or products, let's make sure everything about the engine and the truck works right first. And I knew we were probably going to find some major issues with mine because the engine's just so damn hard to get to on this thing. It's not easy, and I thought, the fuel mileage sucks anyway. I only use it 15 or 20,000 miles a year. Is it really worth it to tear the bedroom apart to get to the engine just to do a boost check? And so when it's here, you guys have all the tools, all the equipment, mechanics that know how, and it wasn't easy, but they managed to get to everything.
Yeah, this one's definitely more crammed than even the average one.
Yeah,
Jeff just by a little bit, but in the process, we also noticed a few other things that people sometimes overlook, and we're all guilty of that one.
Yeah.
The muffler, what turned out to be a big one.
Which it's a catalytic converter, and
it's a weird hybrid.
Oh, is
type.
it really?
Yeah, it's something special. We'll put it that way. It's not your typical what we would expect to see on a Class 8 truck.
Now you're right. I just totally overlooked this. When we talked about performance, we never thought, hey, wait a minute, this is a C13 that could be, and honestly, the muffler's actually really easy to get to.
Yeah,
it's not too bad.
Yeah, and
it's right there. So I should have thought about this the first day I bought this thing.
And that kind of led to the simple test of just, kicking it a few times and listening to it and be like, ooh, that sounds solid. And I peeked in it before I came up here, and it's just as bad as we expected. They have a flat plate and little holes drilled around the side, about an 1/8 inch in diameter, and there's not as many as you think there should be.
Oh, boy. So this is actually good news for me, because I'm wondering why I've been losing fuel economy since I've had this. The catalyst I just started running at this trip was starting to clean things up, is getting a little better. But in reality, when I went back and looked at my records, I could do pretty close to 6 most of the time without a trailer before. Now I'm down closer to 5. That's a pretty big drop, but I think we've identified some reasons why.
Yeah, some big ones too.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the boost leak was horrendous.
I posted a picture on on truckingtribe.com where we found the boost leak near the turbos, and I have to say, I don't know about you guys, you do a lot of this. I don't know that I've ever seen a truck where we could pull the part off and say, here was the boost leak.
Yeah, it's been going for a while there.
Yeah, and it was a big one.
Yeah, not just a little one.
It was a big leak.
That O-ring was just gone.
Yeah. Yeah, so explain to them what part that is and what we're talking about here.
So on your truck, the way it's set up here, there is an intake horn that has a O-ring bolted to it, right on the side of the head. And that O-ring, blew out, and for some time has only been getting worse and worse.
And what is that, like 4-inch piping?
3 or 4. Yeah.
3 or 4. So we're talking about big piping, and when you look at the metal piece we took off, you can see the burn marks and the soot marks of where that leak was happening, and it's almost 3/4 of that whole diameter.
Yeah. So it was gushing pretty good.
Yeah. And one of the mechanics made a good point. He said, we need to get this piece back in and do another boost test, because this could have been hiding another leak somewhere.
Well, yeah, and since it's in a coach here, it's really hard in the engine bay when it starts to leak, pinpoint exactly, is that the only one? Because it fills up and there's no way to get the air out to pinpoint it.
It looked like somebody let off a smoke bomb underneath the engine.
Yeah, and that's not what we want to see.
Right. Right. But there's 2 big things that I think are good news. Now we fix them. I should see significant performance improvement, I think, from just those 2. And in fact, I don't want you to, we'll talk about the program, but I don't want to put the program in until I go drive this just after those 2 mechanical fixes.
Yeah, then we'll do a tune and take it for another ride.
Yeah, sounds good. So we'll come back to the tune. I want to hear from Pete. Pete, welcome.
Wait. Hold on a second.
Go ahead, Bruce.
What's the moral of this story, Kevin?
Bruce, I tried to explain why I didn't take care of this stuff, but you're right.
No.
I should have.
No, we tell people, just get your truck in once a year or every other year, and let's just check things over. You've got relatives, a lot of family right there 140 miles away. You need to come see them more often, and you need to come see us more often.
You are correct, because watching these guys and what they had to go through, and 2 of them and lots of tools and a lot of time, it's why, as much as I would like to do it myself, I just haven't. And you're right. The thing to do is just bring it here. It'll get done, and it's all getting done, which is awesome. Yeah, good point.
Okay.
All right, Pete. Well, it's great to have you here. We're live. This is kind of awesome. I like this.
This is great.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. So I don't see any reason why we might not be able to do this at the truck show, too.
We'll be traveling Tuesday.
We
travel Wednesday.
Maybe we should just do a special episode since we're all there together.
We can do that.
Now, it's kind of weird. We got to look at the timing. Like, what day does the show open? Thursday might be our best bet, because it opens late, right?
Yes.
Noon?
Well, it's opens at 10. VIP is...
nobody's ever there.
Right.
Yeah, so...
They need to eliminate that.
We could just, on Thursday at Matt's, let's just plan this now while we're talking about it. Thursday at Matt's, we'll go live at 10, my early slot, the live slot, and then we'll be done by 11, and you guys will still have time to get into the booth. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, great.
Hey, Bruce.
That'd be great.
Is Bruce going to be?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
I'll be in doing
What about
that.
you, Bruce?
I'll be at the booth because we do get a lot of people for that VIP.
Okay.
So Bill and I will take care of that, and whoever.
Got it.
And we're going to have Jordan. Bill Jordan and I will take care of it, and we'll let Pete and Ethan do the show.
All right. So, Pete, what's on your mind this week?
So following up with your coach.
Yeah.
So, as far as the boost leak, normally we check it at the turbo. And on this coach, we had to do it to air cleaner, kind of do it a little bit backwards, which were the same results.
Yeah.
But because of the application.
Yeah, they actually ended up going through the wheel well to get some access to things. We tried from the back, we tried from the top, we tried from underneath, and then finally they managed to get through some of it through the wheel well.
And as far as the exhaust system, generally we know most stock mufflers are restrictive, and what really pointed us in that direction is the way the truck smelled, or the coach smelled when we would run it. We had it in a shop in idling, and it just had a strong odor to it, like an incomplete combustion.
Yeah,
That's what brought us to that, like, hey, maybe we've got some restriction going on here.
It was a strange odor. It really was. So something weird was happening, and it was probably that catalytic converter and just everything that's in it.
Well, the boost leak would only make that worse because
That's
you're getting
true.
soot through there in excessive amount too.
Soot and so it's not surprising what I've been dealing with, and this is what we found. And both of these problems are pretty major. They're not. It wasn't a little leak. It's not a little bit of obstruction. What do we say the worst thing to do to a diesel engine? Starve it for air.
Starve it.
I wasn't getting air in, wasn't getting air out. No wonder why I hate the performance on this thing.
It'd have been nice if we were able to check back pressure, which is a test we can do. It would have just been too hard on the coach.
No access. Yeah.
I can only imagine how high the back pressure was.
I bet it was crazy. And we know that we were probably building no boost pressure at all. My God, I might as well have been running naturally aspirated, huh?
Well, that and you'd be running hot too. Even if the wastegates on the turbo didn't open in time, you're spinning it faster, compressing more air, making more heat, and then efficiency down with it getting pumped right back out before it makes it to the actual engine.
Absolutely. All right. Anybody have anything else we want to talk about today?
Nope.
No, we've got calls, so let's go find out what everybody else wants to talk about. We're going to get started in Colorado. Rodney, welcome to the program. Oh, hold on. What did I do? Well, let me try that again. There we go. Rodney, welcome. Oh, no, Rodney just disappeared. Let's, hey, Angie, see if you can get Rodney back on. I'm not sure what happened with that call, but we can go to Raymond. Welcome to the program.
How you doing? I have a question for the Pittsburgh Power team. I believe I remember Bruce saying that he has a guy, an older gentleman that inspects trucks before you spend the money on rebuilding them. Hawkeye, is that right?
A Hawkeye report. Yes, that's Adam.
Well, what kind of an appointment do you need for that, and how expensive is that? I'm going to be in Butler, Pennsylvania this.
Anybody?
As far as getting an appointment, right now we're pretty backed up, but we do have some open days here and there, especially for a relatively small job like that. Call the shop, ask for Eric in service, and he can check the schedule, and we'll do our best to get you in.
Yeah.
And the Hawkeye is generally a couple hours labor, so you're looking at like $250, and then he'll go over a list of what he found wrong and then what it would cost to fix it.
Now, this Hawkeye report usually is front to back and not blow-by and not dyno testing and stuff like that. The blow-by and dyno testing would be done by the engineering department. But the Hawkeye report is an overall picture of the truck.
Got it.
So
All right.
thinking the engine needs rebuilt and you want that checked out, that would be Ethan's department. And we can get you in. All we need to do is a day or two notice. We can get you in for that.
Perfect. Hey, I do want to go back to something I wanted to talk about at the Open. We just had so much going on. So Bill took me across the street this morning, and I got to see the new building and the OPS operation. And I got to tell you, and I've said this in the past, when I was first introduced to the OPS, it was by Tom Bach. Tom was just amazing, still is, and I loved the product. And we loved the results we get from the product. And then a couple of years later, I got a chance to visit the factory in they were in Connecticut, right? Yeah, they were in Connecticut. And I was a little shocked. The company just wasn't that well run. They had an awesome product, but there were certainly a lot of things they could have improved on. And over the years, they went through multiple CEOs. Very few people had any trucking background. So every time a new CEO would come in, they'd want me to spend a day with them and try to get them up to speed. And, I'd make recommendations like you should probably get out of that oil field business. It's just distracting you. You should probably have a more efficient line to build these things. And nothing ever changed. And Bruce, you and I never talked about this. Nobody here ever asked me about anything. But when I went over and saw how you guys have that line set up and how they're being built, it is a huge improvement on an amazing product. So I got to say, you guys did an awesome job setting that up. And now I think it's exactly what this company needed. It was a great product. They needed somebody that knew how to run it and build them and service them, and you guys have done an amazing job. And then I got to learn. I had actually gone through their line back in Connecticut and built one. So I knew how the whole line worked. I knew how to put one together, all the pieces and parts. So to see your operation, and then the funny thing was, I'm walking around on the flow, and I said, you know what this reminds me of? I said, your flow reminds me of the way I designed my kitchen. One step in any direction at any time, and I can always reach the things I need. There's not a lot of walking around and wasted time. And, I'm sorry, I just forgot his name. Who's over there building him? Steve. Steve looked at me and he kind of laughed and he said, I was a chef for years. I can tell you set this thing up just like you would set up a kitchen, and it's awesome. So that was funny. But then I got to learn something totally new. I got to go over to the DPF room. What an incredible process that is. I had no idea what that DPF goes through in that process. It is multiple steps, and some of the steps even get repeated, but it's incredible. I had no idea what that process was all about. You guys have an amazing setup there, too. I can't believe how small and efficient that area is. It doesn't feel crowded, but you've got a lot going on in that little space.
It's amazing what $76,000 worth of DPF cleaning equipment will do.
It is. It's an incredible process. I mean, you can tell that all of that equipment was built for one thing, to clean a DPF as good as you can possibly clean one. That thing's got to come out of there like new.
And all the DPF franchisees have that.
What a great thing. Boy, yeah. So it's really amazing now, Bruce, to see how all the years we've been talking about all these products, you've developed so many of these things that, you and your team that keep the emissions running. And now for me to be here and be in the garage and go over and see that, it really all comes together to me now. And honestly, there's nothing like it anywhere else in the country. There's nobody running a shop like this. Congratulations, by the way. It's really incredible.
Well, thank you. The OPS is Bill and Steve did all that, so let's give those two credit for that.
Yeah, it is. It is a very, very cool setup. And the other thing, I kind of remember this from the early days. They had like tolerances. Well, okay, 1 out of 100 wasn't exactly the way we kind of wanted it. And they seemed a little casual about it. And Steve is like the quality control Nazi. I mean, he was telling me like, oh no, we do not tolerate any, if it's wrong, we're going to fix it. Every unit that's going out of here is correct. It was just really good to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Hey, did you see any trucks getting detailed at Long Haul?
He wanted to take me over there actually because I need to talk to them. I need to see if they have a couple. He told me they used to run kind of a chrome shop, so they had some of those parts in there. Here I am talking about performance and chrome. What's going on with me? I need a couple of little chrome parts for my wheels. The damn trip across the country was so rough, I lost a couple of things. But I just didn't have time. I spent so much time going through the OPS stuff and the DPF stuff. I just ran out of time, and I had to get back over here. But after the show, I want to go see that.
Yeah, go back over and see. They do a phenomenal job at detailing trucks. I'll see the before and after, and it's just shocking.
Yeah, let's. I just happened to look over, and the board just filled up. This is usually how it goes. So we're going to jump into some calls so we can get to as many as we can. We are off to Missouri this time. Grant, welcome.
Hey, everybody. Just a quick question on exhaust. I've got an MX-13, and I'm starting to get a light white haze on my frame and rear end where the exhaust comes out. And I'm worried that might be coolant. What do you think?
I would think it's more DEF.
I was hoping you'd say that.
But I'm going to let Ethan answer that one because he's the engineer on the emission system side. So.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon, especially in the wintertime, to get built up like that.
Okay. All I could see was dollar signs all over my truck, so
yeah,
I'll just let it go.
Not uncommon, and that's one thing nice too. Do you track the DEF consumption on miles
Yes.
per gallon? Yeah. So have you seen any changes?
It changes a couple 100 miles every time I fill it up, to the good or the bad. It just depends where I'm driving.
Okay, but the nice thing is if it's nothing out of the ordinary is what I was trying to get at there.
No, it's not. Everything's running good, and the oil samples aren't showing anything abnormal.
Are you running the max mileage catalyst?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
So you're running. I'm gonna see Rick Walker today and get some more.
He's a great guy. He is. He really misses not owning trucks. Does he? When you meet with him, does he want to talk for a while?
Yes, which I enjoy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I first met him, I think, at the Iowa Truck Jamboree, and then at the CMCs, and he didn't think he would miss trucks. He had, I think, 6 of them on with FedEx, and he sold them, and he's truck lonely right now.
Yeah, I always enjoy talking to the veterans because I always learn something.
Yeah, good guy.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. You have a great day.
You are welcome. Thanks for the call. We are going to move on. We're going to head off to New York. Jeff, welcome to the program. Jeff, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I'm just kicking my tires right now, doing a walk around.
Well, that's not very accurate, right? When was the last time your foot was calibrated?
Well, it's better than not checking them.
You're right. We'll give you that. What's on your mind today?
Well, after hearing your conversation about your motor coach, it's kind of geared. It's got me thinking if I'm going to buy one, it's not going to be a rear motor. It's going to be a Super C.
Like a Renegade kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
After hearing the headaches you've been having, it's like,
and it's still not an easy choice. I looked at Renegade really hard, mostly, and back then I wasn't even thinking about access. I was just thinking that, building an RV on a Class 8 chassis just makes sense because we're in trucking. It's why I like to have the trailer and the tractor when we did it that way. But the big thing for me and us when we travel. It's usually really hectic. It's mostly business. It's mostly events. We're plus we still have to work. We have to do the show from the road. We have all the driving to do. So my schedule gets so crazy that we wanted the most convenient option. For example, setting up a fifth wheel takes, when you get to a park or anywhere, getting out of the truck, setting up the fifth wheel, getting everything done takes about three times longer than it does on the coach. So that was why we went to a coach. And when we looked at Renegade, we lost a little bit of interior space, usable interior space, by going with that front unit. And that was an issue. Yep. It's two of us and a dog, and we're working and doing radio shows, so every bit of space is critical. And then the bigger factor for me was Renegade's the best builder out there for that type of platform. And honestly, I'm not all that impressed with the quality of the house. The quality of the truck I love, and it's a semi, and I love driving them. And but the engine's there. I can hear it. I can feel the performance. I love that part. But honestly, the quality of the build on the house to me is almost like third tier. And and I understand why. They're all super custom built, so they're already expensive. They had to cut costs where they could, but we just kind of really liked the quality of the build on this one inside. And since we, work in it, and this is really a working unit, that's kind of why we decided. But there's a lot to be said for that front engine setup.
Right.
Kevin,
what
can I add
manufacturer
something
brand
to
do you have now?
It's a Country Coach.
Okay.
So Country Coach kind of considered second tier. It's not built on a Prevost chassis. Although Country Coach had a model for a while built on a Prevost, but it's not like a Marathon or it's next tier. But it's still a big jump from that to what they consider kind of third tier. And we know that we are hard on this thing. I mean, when I use it, it gets used. I drive it like a sports car. I take it out in the desert. I go four-wheeling with it. We're working. So we kind of abuse this thing, and the quality really, really helps. Bruce, what did you want to say?
Peter Grimm, who he collects Brockway trucks. He's from up by Brockway, New York. He had a Prevost, and he just recently sold it. He said every time he takes it, and I think his was a Liberty. I'm not sure whether it was a Liberty or a Marathon. Every time he took it in, it was a minimum $10,000, and he usually left with the same problem he went in with. And he just spent about $500,000 on a Renegade, on a new truck chassis, and he absolutely loves it. And he's thrilled with the interior. So they might have come a long way because they're building a lot for the country western singers. So I would look at a Renegade again. If I was
I'll look again, especially when I hear that price. Are you sure he had one built for that price? What size is it?
I don't know. I don't know. And I just recently spoke to him about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, just to compare, I don't know what year his Liberty or Marathon was, but if you go to build a Liberty or a Marathon today, they start at $1.5 million.
Right.
So
I think
to get
with the 45 footers is pushing like 600, 700,000.
Okay. I might be wrong on the price, but I can tell you he loves it. Now, he's a truck guy, and he loves driving the truck part of it, and he said he doesn't have any of the problems that he had associated with the Prevost.
Well, honestly, as much as I love the new engines, and look, if I could just wave a magic wand and say I get to build any coach I want, I would have to find out why I don't see anybody building on the Volvo bus chassis, because that is a beautiful, beautiful chassis, super high quality, all Volvo driveline. That would be one. Or the other is I would like to go back to something like a Renegade, but I'd actually like to go back to one with maybe a Series 60 or an N14, and I could work on it myself.
You could do that. They would build on that.
Yeah, I would. If I were going to order a Renegade, I think I would pick one of those two engines, and and then now you have access to the engine. I could do a lot of the work myself, which I would enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we are going to move on because we've got calls, and I want to get to them before we've got to wrap this up. We will be wrapping up right at the top of the hour, so we'll get a couple more in here. Let's go to Tennessee. Brandon, welcome to the program.
Hey there, how y'all doing?
Good. What's on your mind today?
I had talked to Bruce and Pete back about a year ago. I just bought my first emissions truck. I've been trucking all my life, but I bought a 2021 Kenworth back last December, or December 4 last, and I was just wondering what I need to be looking for on this thing now. I've started an oil sample on this truck. I've been running samples on it over 25,000 miles. I've got 154,000 on it now, and you know, the book reads that I don't need to run the overhead to about 250. And I've heard you guys talking about, you know, doing it the old way where we used to do it at 100. And I'm just trying to get some thoughts on it. I have run the catalyst in this motor since it was new. You know, it performs good. You know, it's a little sluggish, but, you know, just getting some general insight on the maintenance on these new motors.
First of all, on the sluggishness, our engineering department can take that out of there. That's just babysitters. Number one. Number two is it never hurts to reset the overhead earlier than what the factory calls for.
Yeah.
So what are we saying, like maybe a year, 100,000 miles or so on
Once
that?
a year. Yeah.
Okay, once a year. You know, I find that some things it's easier to just write it on the calendar and do it at the same time. Like all my cars get the oil changed around Christmas. I'll remember it, and I only change them once a year, and, you know, it seems to work great. And I just do it at Christmas, and it's easier to remember.
And when they're doing the overhead, they can check for a boost leak.
Good point.
You know, look it over. If there are any oil leaks, fuel leaks, anything needs checked out, check codes.
Got it.
It's worth doing.
So Pete, if you had a new X15, would you set the overhead once a year?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You would.
And keep in mind, I think a lot of people are going more than 100,000 miles a year.
Yeah, and that's true. That's, you know, some guys are doing 150,000. I mean, I know single drivers that put that much on. So,
yeah.
And then we should probably adjust that for a team, maybe 9 months. Most teams don't do double, but I would say maybe 9 months for a team operation.
I think what I would,
fuel mileage.
I think what I would do is do it at around 100,000. And then maybe do it at 250 and see if there was any change. Write down how many thousandths it was on the valves. And is there an adjustment on the injectors, Pete, on the X15? Yeah, they're camshaft.
No, because they're common rail. Nope. Those are common rail.
All right. So just write down on the valves. And then at 250, and if there was hardly any change, I would probably go another 200, 250. Up closer to 500,000 and check it and write it down what the settings were. And then you can determine yourself what the wear ratio is. And maybe there's none.
Okay. Another question I had is, when I spoke to you, know, I'm kind of landlocked. I've got one customer I haul for, and, you know, I don't generally get about 225 miles away from the house. And there's no one around me remote. I'm over in western Tennessee. And would it be where any of y'all could do any tuning at the show next week if I brought my truck up to the show?
Yeah, we'll be able to tune it.
Okay. I have another question. Like I said, you know, I'm pretty well dedicated to just one guy, and you know, it's 5-6 days a week. I've got to stay right around here and keep this stuff covered.
Why was the laugh, Kevin?
Just because I saw the face on all the people who will be out there doing the tunes when you said that.
Just got to give us a heads up.
That's right. That's right.
Well, you going to bring a tuning kit, Pete?
We can do that. We can do that. I'll make a note to do that.
I have one to do in Denver when I fly back in on Sunday. So.
Well, there you go. All right, well, that's a good thing.
Hey,
we're
this
talking
one
about
in
it now then.
This one in Denver, speaking of gearing, the guy made a mistake. He does heavy haul, doesn't leave the city of Denver, but he put 410 gears in it.
Oh, boy.
And he's way up there in the RPM range, 16, 17, 1800, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I'll bet. All right, we're going to grab one more call. And it looks like it's going to be an oil sample. So I've got to, I'm going to grab the call and then I'm going to go look for the sample. So Todd in Michigan, it's your turn. Welcome.
Hey, how you guys doing? So I showed you my first oil samples and there was some wear metals, but it was kind of weird. And I've got a PDI tune in my truck and you guys were thinking that it could be the tune but you suggested changing oil. So I finally switched, and I went from my Valvoline to the only thing I could get at the time was the Dello synthetic, the Chevron stuff. And this oil sample came back. It says it's not to worry about, but it's got weird stuff like high boron. And
okay, so let me stop you there. I don't have the sample yet. I'm trying to pull it up. But as you're looking at that sample, everything over in the top line from about the center all the way to the right, those are all either multi-source metals or they are additive metals, and you can just ignore them. I've been saying for years I wish they would just take that section off the oil sample. We never really use it for anything useful, and it confuses people. All they're doing is looking at things that are supposed to be in the oil. That boron is supposed to be there. Some oils have moly. Moly should be there, but then other oils don't have moly, so it won't be there. And it just confuses people. It's just the additive package, and I've even found inconsistencies where the same brand and everything, even the additive packages on those aren't consistent. Like all of a sudden, one of them is showing high boron, for example, but it never matters. So all of that I wish they would take off. We can just ignore it.
Okay, that's what I wondered, if maybe it was that kind of situation. And then the other thing I was going to mention, so when you guys looked at this, and I don't know, did you ever were able to find it there?
I am looking at it right now. Are you using Catalyst?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the high iron, so we can ignore that because it's not hurting anything. It's just part of the catalyst. Your base is low, but that's not a big deal. We can either add base, throw a filter on with base. You've got no fuel dilution. Soot for an X15 at 0.6 is nothing to really worry about. Viscosity is right on for this oil, and other than iron, all of your wear metals are low. Your silicon is right where we want to see it, no sodium and potassium. This is just about a perfect sample, really.
Okay. All right. Because I was wondering, back when I sent the first two and there was some wear metals, but then I found out when I was, they were having issues with their exhaust manifold leaking, so they were changing it. Well, they found oil dripping. Well, long story short, valve guide seals were leaking, and the exhaust valve guide seals were beat up pretty good. They had never seen anything, and then that's why I was wondering maybe if some of those wear metals from before were in there.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't even really pay attention to that line because it was 4 oil samples back. But I just had this happen again on an X15. Pete, Bruce, any of you guys? So out of the blue, we went from a reading of 6 on lead, which is pretty much nothing. I mean, nothing to worry about. 0 on copper. Then the next sample, it jumps up to 10 on lead, 30 on copper. And then the next sample after that, it goes back to 4 and 1. And since that sample, no real lead or copper. I just had this happen on another X15. Got a weird reading. Lead and copper went from next to nothing. They jumped up 1 sample, and then they came back down again. And it seemed odd. Anybody have any reason why we might see something like that?
No. I mean, other than a contaminated sample,
It's
I mean,
almost
generally like that can't go down.
Right. Once you start that wear, it's almost impossible to stop the wear, especially once you get to the copper, because, you know, your lead's kind of gone. But it was like, even I had enough history to know we shouldn't be seeing copper off the bearing. There was never enough lead there. But they both showed up at the same time and then both went right back down.
I think I have a sample I was looking at this week that the bearing material was up and down. And it was on the same oil. So they did one at 25,000 miles.
Okay.
They did one at 50 and another one at 75, and then changed it at 75. Well, they were going to change it afterwards. But it was up and down. So it should be 2, 4, 6.
It should climb steady, or at least just stay the same. It should. Did that truck happen to have an OPS? Do you remember?
Yes. Yeah. And it was DD15.
Hey, Todd, do you happen to have an OPS or a bypass filter?
No, I don't. Not yet. I want one, just haven't gone and done it. But no.
I was almost wondering if we had some buildup and then the filter actually got it out, which is unusual because wear metals are usually too small to filter back out. That's just a weird pattern.
I mean, could it have had anything to done with those valve guide seals being bad, or no?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Huh.
I mean,
well, the good news is,
but...
you know, and I even told the other guy, just keep an eye on your oil pressure. But I think it's just some weird anomaly. We're going to have to figure out why it does that. But once it goes away, there's really nothing to look at. I mean, it's gone, so everything's fine. I guess we'll just have to keep an eye on these patterns and see if we can figure something out. And with that, I just looked at the clock, and I don't have to be right to the second the way I used to, but
where's our second hour?
I can't. We're not ready yet. Actually, we might be ready. I just have too much to do today. Plus, Bruce, all this fun stuff is happening in my coach. I want to go play with it now.
You're in the candy store shop. See, that's the problem.
So, you know, the mechanics have done just such a great job of finding the boost leak. Ethan found the muffler and catalytic converter and said, we need to talk about that. So I'm thinking, as bad as those two things are, I want to fix those and then go drive it before we mess with the tune. So we've got to get it put back together. I've got to go drive it. Then I got to bring it back. Then we got to do the tune. Then I got to go drive it again. So I want to go have some fun.
Okay. All right. I'll let you slide this time.
All right. Next time, promise, we're going back to 2 hours, and then it won't be long, and we'll have you guys set up so you can do your own shows, plus this one.
All right.
It's going to get even better. All right. Pete, Ethan, anything we want to close out with? It's awesome having you guys here. This was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, great.
Good. Very much different.
All right, we'll wrap this up. Thanks, everybody. We had, I think we peaked at close to about 500 listeners today, and that's we're not even telling many people about this, so that's pretty awesome. And they've been there the whole time. Almost nobody dropped off, so that's amazing. We will see you back here tomorrow. I think I'm not sure of my travel schedule yet, so I might try. We'll do an hour for sure. I might try to do a second hour of Destination Health tomorrow, so we will see. We'll see you then. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey. I'm Kevin Rutherford.